Knock, knock. Who's there? CX500. Very old joke from the 1980s because of the camchain problems CX500's had. So, 1979 Honda CX500 Custom. Okay, so CX500 come out in I think 78 and ran till about 83 and 84. Good bike, in fact very good bike, popular bike, very popular amongst dispatch riders in the 80s and 90s in the United Kingdom. I myself had one when I was a poor student. I clocked up about 30,000 miles on it, quite a lot anyway. So what are we looking at here? Let's talk about the engine because they came in different body styles. But basically, we've got a 500cc V-twin, water-cooled, 4-valve per cylinder, twin-carb engine, 5-speed. So that's one cylinder on this side. There's the carbs, exhaust, and then if you look here, clutch is at the front. It's handy, and then the oil filter. So yeah, a little liquid-cooled motor there. I know 50 horsepower maybe, 48, 45, something like that. Never going to pull your arms off, but this one actually runs pretty damn well. I actually quite like it. You know, twin shock, single disc brake at the back, at the front rather, drum brake at the back, and shaft drive. So these came in three different flavors. So you got what's called the deluxe, which is the one that was prevalent in the UK. So it had the bigger tank. It had a more kind of like round. I'm not going to call it a coffin tank, but a more rounded kind of like. It's hard to describe the shape, but it's a different tank. It's not this teardrop tank. And they also had like an integrated nacelle here for the clocks and the headlight. Okay, so that's the deluxe, and they were less common in the United States, but a lot more common in the UK. This here we've got the CX500 Custom, which is what this model is, which I think were a lot more prevalent in the UK. Smaller tank. It's that teardrop tank, but it's a small tank. Then you've got they changed into the CX650, and I think Honda just about got it right, and then they stopped making it, but the 650 just basically had a bit more go. This one doesn't have a huge amount of go, but it's got enough go. You know, you can do 80, 85. You could probably keep up with traffic on the motorway if you're flogging it a little bit. I certainly did in the 80s and 90s. And then, of course, you also had, see my other videos, but you also had the CX500 and CX650 Turbo. Which really was a completely different animal. I mean, there's very, very little crossover on parts here. CX500 Turbo was not very good, really. Sorry to anybody who's got one and thinks they're fucking great, but I thought it was bollocks. A 650 Turbo is meant to be a hell of a lot of better bike, but again, Honda got it right and then stopped making it. So, you know, on this one you've got a see, what is that? It's a 19-inch front wheel, and that single disc on the back. On the back, you've got a 16-inch front wheel. This has a Kenda Challenger tyre on it. Is it a Kenda? Yeah. I'll tell you what, these are most one of the fucking shit tyres you've ever had in your entire life, because I got one of these on my BMW F650, and it's fucking garbage. It doesn't grip in the dry. It doesn't grip in the wet. It doesn't grip in the cold, and it just about grips in the hot. It's a fucking shit tyre. Don't buy one of these tyres. Kenda Challenger. You heard it here first. So, yeah, good bike. Let's have a walk around. So on the custom one, these are the English, or yeah. So the Germans call it the shit pump, which is the Gulen pumpen or something like that, which is basically muck spreader, manure spreader. The English called it the plastic maggot because it was more plastic, and that was less aimed at this one here. I don't know what the Americans called it. Probably didn't call it anything really. But they were, like I said, they're a general good bike. You know, maybe 90 miles an hour, probably 50 to the gallon, 55 to the gallon. Something, you know, not going to be heavy on consumables. They handle all right. They're not too bad. I mean, I must say I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of these pullback bars. Never have been. So standard, you know, clocks. On this one, actually, the rev counter. Look how lazy the rev counter is. Incredibly, it's warm because I've been riding it around. Maybe that'll start working again. Maybe the WD-40 that I squirted up it, which you just never do apparently. Maybe that's starting to work. So you know, you know, good bike, really, good bike, and got very popular amongst the cafe racer, street tracker crowd. You know, again, the deluxe is a better version for doing this, but there are 3 or 4 things that go wrong with these, and I'll tell you about them. And everybody knows that the first one is the mechanical seal on the water pump. So this tube here, goes into the water pump housing here, and there's an impeller behind there, and the mechanical seal goes. In the good old days, it used to be engine out and replace the seal. But now you don't have to do that. There's clever people. It's called the Shep method. Look it up, where people can actually replace the seal without taking the engine out. So I'm going to do, and needless to say, when I went to buy this one, the guy said, "Oh, it's got a coolant leak out of one of the hoses." I thought, "Oh, I know where that's coming from." And sure enough, you'll see a dribble down here of when it, or evidence thereof, which this has. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2 is the alternators go out on them, and again, the back of the engine, I believe they get hot and they overheat. So it could be like the Goldwing, could be the connector, but I really don't know. So that's number 2 that can go wrong with them. Okay, so if you take the engine out, you're going to need a water pump seal, a gasket, and some other stuff. So you're looking at $120, $150, probably a bit more than that if you do it yourself, right? If you do the Shep method, you're looking at about $40. If the alternator's out, and if you're going to pull the back of the engine, pull the engine out, and you basically take this casing off here, and the engine's really easy to drop out because it basically hangs in the frame, and you take off drain the coolant. Take off, I could drain the oil, but you don't have to. Take off the exhaust, take off the carb, and basically drop the engine out. There's no frame underneath the engine, so it's a dreadfully easy engine to get out of the frame. So if you are going to actually bother your time to pull the engine out and take the back case off and do the water pump seal, then you're probably worth sticking an alternator in it. So that's number 2 that can go wrong with them. Number 3 is the camchain tension, and that's what Honda had a lot of problems with in the early years. Anything that's still running now has probably been fixed, and I believe there was a retrofit, and that you see next to the engine number, there's meant to be 3 dots stamped on, and they're not stamped on here, so there's some retrofit that was or wasn't done. But this one doesn't seem to make any noise, and it's done 15,479.9 miles. And I've done about 15 of those miles, and I actually quite like this bike. It's a good kind of go to the pub, potter downtown bike. So there is some, that's the camchain tensioner bolt there, and I can't remember if you just like release it and let it go, or when you're running the engine or not running the engine. I have to read up on that. But that's number 3 that can go around the camchain. The 4th thing, which somebody told me, Mitch, my friend, the Honda mechanic, said the fan can come loose, and I need to get in there and see if the fan will wiggle. But basically the fan can come loose, and then you need to get a new fan because it wears out the joint. So, but other than that, there's not a lot that goes wrong with them. I say they're very popular amongst the cafe crowd. This particular example gave $500 for, which is not bad. The paintwork's a bit knocked around. I'm not entirely sure why. It looks like lots of shit has been put on it, but it's done 15,400 miles. Got a nice rack on it. It does have the exhausts are a bit seen better days, so I'm trying to source a cheap pair of exhausts for it. I did actually think about putting some Harley takeoff mufflers on it. I did try one on, but I didn't like the way it sounded. And there you go, CX500. So I say, you're never going to light the world on fire with this thing. But what you are going to get is something that's going to be pretty reliable, assuming all those things don't happen or they get sorted out. The water pump seal is just old. This is 41 years old, believe it or not. It's only like 9, that's only 10 years younger than me. The Horners shit the bed at some point, and somebody's put a different one on it. Again, this one has it got a Kenda tyre on the front? I can't tell, but they're fucking shit tyres. They really are. I mean, they inspire no confidence at all. But it's got a nice handle-line rack and backrest with a little zippy thing on the back. So basically, this week I've ordered the parts. I'm going to do the water pump seal. I'll see what my options are with silencers. A friend of mine might have a couple of them, and then I'll bang it on the internet for probably, I don't know, maybe as high as 15. Probably not as high as 15, but probably no lower than like 12 and a half, and then I'll take what I can get for it. But I don't think it'll be a difficult sell, really. Say quite pleasant to ride. It's not a high. It's actually, it's funny because it says it revs to like 9 3/4, and I don't remember them revving that high. Maybe they do. I don't know. But I just did all the. I'll tell you what as well. Heads can warp on these because they're aluminum, aluminium heads that warp, but they're really easy to fix. They're a piece of cake to fix. You basically take them off and lap them, and you can tell because you get bubbles through the expansion, through the coolant expansion bottle. Here you get some bubbles. The head gasket goes, but it's not a hard fix, and it's not uncommon. But what I did do on these, I had to fix the I got it as rattling its tits off, and I had to set the valve clearances on these. So it's 4 valve per cylinder, so 2 exhaust, 2 inlets, and the inlet valve is 4 thou, and the outlet valve is 5 thou. No, I'm sorry, the inlet valve is 3 thou, and the outlet valve is 4 thou. So and these were set to about literally probably about 10 or 15 thou, really rattly. So I did them up, and the motor quietened off quite nice. And again, these should start pretty nice. And, a little bit of noise maybe, but my friend Mitch was saying about the camchain, but there's absolutely zero camchain noise out of that. What would you pay for these? Well, like I said, I gave $500 for this. They're pretty popular. They don't hang around a long time on Craigslist as long as they're not complete pigs. But anywhere up to people might ask you $2,500 for a really nice one. Are they worth that, Ian? Well, I guess if it is to you, I mean, what are you going to get? You're just going to get a nice motorcycle that runs pretty well. It's good down the A roads or down the highways, not necessarily down the interstate, but they're a piece of piss to work on. I mean, the oil filters at the front there, the oil drain bolts at the front. The plugs are super easy to get to. The valves are easy to get to. It doesn't take long to get the carbs off. The air filter lives under the seat, and this had a K&N, and I just gave it a clean. You can change the oil on the shaft drive, and that's not difficult to get to. So they are really, really, really easy to work on. And I think the one when I sold it, I think it had like 62,000 miles on when I sold mine in the UK to some Scouser, and it was still running strong. That's an original Honda line accessory, so that was an official Honda. So there you go, 1979 CX500. It's not. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a great bike. I think the Deluxe is better, but CX500 generally, but they're a very good bike. They're a very good bike. They're up there with like GS550s and stuff like that. They're just kind of nice, pleasant, easy motorcycles to ride that aren't super expensive, that aren't going to eat tires or brakes and stuff like that. So recommended? Yeah, sure. I mean, if you want something to pot around town to, or even like do a 20 mile commute on, these would be very good. Parts availability is very good on these. A lot of parts on eBay. I think they must have sold a lot of them. So owners clubs, I'm sure. Technical articles, fucking everywhere. So you really can't go wrong with one of these. And like I said, if you get one, and it's funny, the last one I had before this, I bought it. I was all excited. I only give about $200 for it, and it was the Deluxe or whatever. And it was really chuffed, and both the alternator and the water pump seal were out, and so I just got an alternator and a seal, and I gave the engine to Mitch, and he just flipped him in, and we put it back, and I sold it for about $2,000. It was a nice clean one, shipped it out of state. And talking about that, actually, I've had 2 bikes that have come and gone that I never bothered making videos, but I had a Montesa Kota that I picked up, and I decided to sell it on eBay because I thought it might go popular, and it went for fucking nothing. It went for like $1,100. So I barely made any money on that. And then also, I bought a Goldwing the other night, and leaning against a tree was a DT360, kind of like the RT1 type thing. So again, I got that for a couple of $100 and just flipped it for 600. So that was nice. But like I say, I usually would have made videos, but I'm particularly busy at the moment, just with stuff. And in fact, a workmate's coming around. We're going to go and look at a CB500X for him, which I think are excellent motorcycles. But this is 1979 Honda CX500 Custom. Pretty damn good motorcycle. You can't really go wrong on these. And people would tour on these back in the 80s. They had the Silver Wing as well, which had a fairing, which had integrated luggage. So, great bike. I don't know, but very good bike. Yeah, can't go wrong. All right, I've said enough, and I'm gonna have a beer. All right, see ya.